He saw a need for affordable housing. He saw a need for change within the property sector and the local government sector many, many moons ago. Got involved in the Young Liberal movement, then got involved in Parliament, was elected as a Member of Parliament many years ago. He's coming up to over 20 years in politics, and he's done a wonderful job in opposition, but also in government. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Anthony Roberts is the Minister for Planning, Minister for Housing, Special Minister of State, the Leader of the House, the Member for the Ledgers Assembly and Member for Lane Cove, a great friend of mine and a great friend of the Housing Supply Association. So, ladies and gentlemen, can you please put your hands together for the Honourable Anthony Roberts.
And I've got to say, Jerome, what a fantastic MC we have here today. Mate, if I was going to be auctioning my home or my business, I'd speak to Jerome. And what company are you from?
Ray White.
Ray White. Ray White. Ray White. Was that Ray White?
Yeah, Ray White.
Ray White.
RayWhite.com.
RayWhite.com. You can be Ray White wasn't it? Okay, right. Look, there is a little bit of an echo here, so I'll try to do what I can. But look, can I thank everyone for being here today. I want to acknowledge particularly my dear friend and colleague, the Honourable Greg Pearce, MLC. Greg is a major supporter of this industry, and indeed many of the great things that have occurred under this government can actually be traced back to Greg, who I think brings to the Parliament a depth of knowledge and ability that you quite often don't see for generations. So, Greg, I pay tribute to you and thank you for what you're doing to ensure that we have a great planning system and we continue to pursue housing affordability. To Commissioner Blakely here from the Greater Sydney Commission, thank you very much for joining us here today. To my Parliamentary Secretary, arguably the best Parliamentary Secretary a Minister could hope for, Carolyn McNally, thank you for being here today. My dear friend Bill Pickering and friends, in fact I see many friendly faces, people I've known for many, many years. But I want to thank and welcome you to the newly formed and not-for-profit Housing Supply Association, and I want to thank them for inviting me here today to talk about supply and affordability. I welcome the Housing Supply Association as a new and important voice at the table for housing affordability. When it comes to holistically addressing the issue of housing supply and affordability, I firmly believe that the HSA will have a great deal to offer. We now have, for the first time ever, a purpose-led organisation representing industry leaders that are working hand in hand with those seeking greater affordable housing and government to contribute to best practice policy, best practice public policy, as well as improved planning outcomes. Most importantly, the HSA, in conjunction with its members, now have the ability to have direct intervention on the supply and cost of housing issues, breaking down the barriers for those who want to purchase their own home but can't afford it in the current marketplace. And these are crucial issues impacting our state and particularly Sydney. And I appreciate the opportunity to let you know that the New South Wales Government and what we're doing in that space. As you would all know, our state and its capital are in high demand as a place to call home. We have good amenity, wonderful livability and a strong economy. So it's therefore not surprising that our population is growing and demand for housing is strong. In fact, you could argue that we are indeed a victim of our own success. We are now an international city and we have all those issues that an international city faces around housing affordability. And let me make it quite clear that while Melbourne continues to compete with Wellington and Auckland and Dubbo and Adelaide, Sydney will continue to compete with Paris, New York, Singapore and London. We're now expecting to see an increase of some 2.1 million people over the next 20 years. The population of Sydney is projected to grow to more than 6.4 million people in that time, which is an increase of almost 1.8 million people from last year. More than half of this growth, of course, is going to occur in Western Sydney. This means we need some 900,000 more homes across New South Wales, 725,000 of those in Sydney alone. To add to the demand created by population growth, new residential construction between 2006 and 2011 unfortunately remained at incredibly low levels. The result of that sustained low level of construction, when Bob Carr said Sydney was full, is that there now is pent-up demand for an additional 100,000 homes in Sydney. The government knows that we can't afford to resign ourselves to business as usual, and that's why we've been doing everything we can to ramp up supply across New South Wales and particularly in Sydney. In response to current demand and the massive demand expected in the near future, the government is delivering record numbers of new homes across the state. And we're doing this by reforming the planning system, and I again want to pay tribute to Carolyn McNally here today, and we're introducing new programs. And throughout it all, we're continuing to keep our state economy strong. And indeed, 90% of this nation's growth is coming from New South Wales. And that doesn't happen just by good luck. That happens when you have a Premier and a government that is working hard to ensure that we get the books right, we recycle our assets, and we ensure that we continue to drive good public policy. If this state, I must say, all politics aside, but the fact is, if we had Labor running this state, as they have been doing in Queensland and Victoria, this entire nation would be in recession. So you have a government that is open to ensuring that we have good opportunities for change, we have great opportunities for developing new business and jobs. And particularly the development of new homes. Some 61,000 new homes were completed in 2016, and I want to thank the people in this room for that. Government is merely an enabler. Well, we hope government is an enabler. Sometimes in the past, government has done its best to probably disenable things to occur. I've got to say, the people in this room here are the ones that are building the homes for families and for first home buyers, and I'll come to that, back to that shortly. Now, that 61,000 homes is more than double the 29,000 homes that were built in 2010 under the previous government. Housing completions are expected to continue rising during 2017 on the back of the strong pipeline of work underway, and new approvals are coming through. The latest data I can share with you today shows that almost 83,000 new homes were under construction as of December 2016, and that's double those being built at any time prior to 2011. Since coming to power in 2011, approvals of new homes have reached record highs, with over 337,000 homes approved since then. In the 12 months to April this year, almost 73,000 homes were approved, maintaining, of course, those record approvals that have sat above 70,000 since November of 2015. So I've got to say this government, together with industry, have a good record on supply, and as Minister, can I say I'm looking forward to ramping up that to meet the demand mentioned earlier. We need to give Sydney-siders and the people of New South Wales the housing they need. But supply, can I say, is not just about meeting demand, however important that may be. It's also crucial to easing housing prices. We all know that New South Wales, and especially Sydney, is in the midst of a housing price boom. Now, while that's great, and we celebrate that for current homeowners, these prices have made it difficult at times for first home buyers to actually enter the marketplace. And that's why this government is absolutely committed to making housing affordable so everyone can aspire to enter the marketplace. The challenge of housing affordability is one that requires both state and federal government responses, together with working closely with local government to deliver upon that. But we're pushing forward, particularly from a state and local level, to help address the challenge by increasing that housing supply. Higher house prices, of course, have been driven by rising land values, and this has been very much the case, particularly in Sydney. So in response, can I say as Minister, this government is releasing and rezoning more land and will continue to do so to create those new communities. We're also rebuilding existing suburbs to take advantage of our unprecedented investment in transport infrastructure. And we're creating 15 new priority precincts across Sydney in areas that are close to transport and close to services. These precincts have been earmarked for growth and revitalisation, and they'll provide thousands more homes, creating vibrant communities supported by that key infrastructure. They will allow for more modern, diverse housing, and they'll boost supply by accelerating the rezoning process. So this will mean that people of all ages will have a variety of housing to choose from in their chosen communities. In the next 5 years, can I say, the Department of Planning and Environment forecasts over 184,000 new homes will be completed across Sydney. Now that's a 60% increase, or some 69,000 new homes completed compared to the previous 5 years. So this is a massive surge in housing, and a welcome one for those looking to make Sydney their permanent home. As you would know, supply and affordability are totally entwined, and that's why the New South Wales Government's new housing affordability packages focus so strongly on supply. Announced on the 1st of June this year, this comprehensive package seeks to improve housing affordability through a range of measures. As part of the package, the Department of Planning and Environment will establish a specialist team to work with councils to accelerate rezoning applications, to assist those in this room to ensure that we deliver more homes for more people. It will also establish an Office of Housing Coordinator to resolve any impediments to supply. We want to hear from industry. We want to hear from people in this room as to what is holding you up, doing what you do best, and that is putting roofs over people's heads. Councils will be able to consider smaller minimum lot sizes when they're updating their local environment plans. As land value has a significant impact on housing prices, of course, smaller lots will reduce the cost of dwellings. Our medium density housing code has been developed, and that's going to allow well-designed dual occupancies, townhouses, manor homes and terraces to be accepted as compliant development. This is directly aimed at bringing more homes at affordable prices into the marketplace, as well as diversifying the types of homes that are available. The Greenfield Housing Code will simplify development standards for 1- and 2-storey dwellings in greenfield areas, and over $2 billion will be allocated for state infrastructure to accelerate housing in those priority areas. A new Premier's priority on housing affordability will be established, with a goal of 61,000 new dwelling completions statewide on average each year until 2021. And I'll be leading a housing affordability task force to drive the strategy to meet that implementation. Can I make it quite clear that as a Minister, I'm personally, as well as a government, interested and committed to removing the red tape to ensure quality dwellings get built faster across Sydney and New South Wales. Thank you. If there's any person that hates red tape more than me in the government, it will probably just be the Premier. So you can see that coming throughout the pipeline. But we're making sure that increased supply supports the easing of housing prices. The GSC's district plans will be finalised and will be released early next year. Those plans will contain affordable rental housing targets, and I know these are targets that many stakeholders have some views upon. What I want to make clear is that the targets the GSC ends up adopting are a minimum. They will clearly be targets for affordable rental housing for very low and low income households, separate of course to the government's social housing programs. These are targets that can't be traded off or substituted for moderate income housing solutions. These need to occur above and beyond those GSC targets. To facilitate this occurring, my department will soon be releasing for consultation an explanation of intended effect for an updated affordable housing SEP. The SEP will consolidate 3 existing SEPs and outline a proposed approach to facilitate supply of affordable housing for local workers. It will include measures to improve the operation of bonus provisions for affordable housing for local and key workers. And with respect to this, I want to pay tribute to the men and women who put their lives on the line and work for our communities, and they should be part of our communities. Here we have representatives from the New South Wales Fire Brigade, the New South Wales Ambulance Service, as well as the New South Wales Police Force, and others here from other organisations that do so much for us. We can do better as a society than have a police officer travelling an hour and a half from the Central Coast to go to her station to protect our lives and property. We can do better than that. We can do better than having a nurse who travels, leaves his family of a morning and travels from the Illawarra to go and work at the Royal North Shore. We can do better than that. And indeed, if we want to have livable communities, we need communities that have a broad mix of people living and working within those communities, and that's something I personally will continue to drive, and something that is something that I'm totally committed to. So those people representing, those important elements, please take back to your membership, right, that there is huge support within our communities to ensure, that our police, fire brigade officers, ambulance officers, our nurses, our teachers, our childcare workers, and indeed all those people that actually build and connect a strong community, will have places within these fantastic new communities that we are building because we are planning them well. Can I say, with respect to first home buyers, this government also recognises the need to do more than just increase supply if we're going to ensure that owning a home is not out of reach for the people in New South Wales. You've just got to go to any barbecue or any function, and the first thing people talk about is how much their home has increased in value over the past 12 months. And the second thing they talk about is how are my children or grandchildren going to afford to live in Sydney. And that's why our new package focuses on helping first home buyers who often face stiff competition from investors. It includes stamp duty exemptions for first home buyers purchasing properties up to $650,000 and discounts for properties up to $800,000. A $10,000 first homeowners grant will also be available to those first home buyers who build new houses worth up to $750,000 and those who purchase new properties worth up to $600,000. The package also includes a range of additional measures, including increasing the foreign investor surcharge from 4% to 8% on stamp duty and from 0.75% to 2% on land tax. So you can see housing supply and affordability is very much at the forefront of our government's discussions for quite some time. And when the Premier announced it as her priority, it immediately became my priority. We know, of course, there's been an issue brewing and we've been actively seeking solutions. And can I say once again, industry is part of that solution. And that's where the Housing Supply Association comes in. The first organisation to bring the property industry, professional organisations, communities and government together to deliver better outcomes for those trying to buy their first home. And I want to acknowledge and pay tribute to those people that are leading the way here. The gift and the legacy that will come from today is something that our children and grandchildren will look back on and thank us for. And I hope to see the HSA driving an industry-led response to build a bridge across the housing social divide, targeting those such as first home buyers, key workers, medically discharged service personnel, as well as the disabled. It's a purpose, and its purpose is to help us connect moderate income home seekers with motivated, affordable house makers. I'm told that the first home buyers and key workers will be registered for a property with the HSA through its website, and I commend you for that innovation. Its industry partners will advise the HSA in advance of new affordable properties coming to market, and I thank you for that. In the case of first home buyers, the HSA will market these properties direct to those registered on its database to give those people, our children, our grandchildren, the first opportunity. In the case of key workers, the HSA will be forming a subcommittee comprising the key worker associations. This subcommittee will determine criteria for eligible key workers applying based on income. The areas in which they work will be matched with properties available to the HSA in those areas, and the subcommittee will then appoint a housing provider to manage the properties and match them with eligible key workers. And this is, again, just a wonderful and unique initiative. And again, I congratulate Bill Pickering here today and his board for their commitment to such a worthy cause as helping provide a roof over the heads of those most in need, as well as our key workers. I commend the formation of the Housing Supply Association to assisting in tackling these challenges, and very much on behalf of our government, we look forward to working with all participants to break down the barriers for those future generations of new homeowners that I've spoken about, and helping key workers to live where they work. I'm very well aware there's no silver bullet to delivering housing affordability. As I've outlined, government has a range of measures and programs focused on increasing supply and delivering the supporting infrastructure and community facilities that our growing neighbourhoods need. The Housing Supply Association is just another part of an overall mix to deliver housing outcomes. I wish the association every success, but can I just say on a personal note, as a conservative member, part of a conservative government, I want to thank all of you here today that are involved and have been involved in some cases for generations in building homes for people. The risks that you take, the issues with the vagaries of the banking cycle and economic cycles. But time and time again, if I have a look around here, there would be hundreds of thousands of homes that have been built by individuals here, their families, their companies, their fathers, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for the risks that you take. I want to thank you, for employing the people you do. I want to thank you for ensuring that all the associated industries that employ so many have benefited from your risk-taking and also your vision. So on behalf of this government, you will never get thanks usually. It's like being a politician. But I want to thank you all, from the planners to the lawyers, and only good lawyers here today, I understand, which is great. All the bad ones are back, representing a bank probably. But can I say thank you very much for everything you do. I look forward to working closely with the HSA. And I would say that if you really want a good voice, if you really want to participate in the policy makeup, the HSA is a great opportunity for you to do that. So have a great afternoon, and I'll just finally finish this with, make yourselves known to these fantastic people at the table number 8 in front of me. Again, people representing our key workers, and our key workers, one of the great outcomes, I want them living in my community wants them living in their community, and it's the opportunity for all of us to come together and deliver on, I think, a great piece of policy outcome. Thank you.